Hey everyone, in this video you'll learn how to record killer acoustic guitar at home using 1 or 2 microphones and a DAW. If you've struggled to get a great acoustic guitar sound at home, or you're not sure where to place the microphone to get the sound you're looking for, watch till the end of this video because you'll learn how to record acoustic guitar like a pro. Let's get started by talking about how to record acoustic guitar with 1 microphone. Now, the first question that may come to mind is where to place the microphone. But to answer this, we must first ask, where does the sound come from? Well, there's a couple different points. The first being the body. This is going to be the source of the most resonance. It's going to have the fullest body sound because it's the heart of the instrument. But it can also be a little bit boomy. So as much as possible, we want to avoid placing the microphone directly in front of the sound hole of the acoustic guitar. This is going to push a lot of air into the microphone and generally create a really unpleasant and boomy sound. The next area that we're going to focus in on is the neck. This is the source of a lot of finger noise, okay? A lot of high frequency detail. This is going to have a lot of the character of the player and the noise from the hands and the playing of the guitar. And then finally, we have the bridge. This is going to give you some of the warmer tone from the body, as well as a more brassy tone that comes from the strings connecting with the bridge. So there's a little bit of finger detail here, but usually we're getting it on the other side of the palm and it's facing into the body of the guitar, so it's generally a bit warmer than the neck. So in a 1 microphone setup, it's ideal to find a balance between the tone of the body and the detail of the neck. So I end up usually placing the microphone pointed somewhere between the 12th and the 15th fret, about 6 to 8 inches away. This points the mic at the body while avoiding a direct path with the sound hole, which, as I mentioned, can be a little bit boomy. Likewise, this mic is still directed at a part of the neck, which can provide some detail from the finger work, but it can also start to use a bit of that cardioid pattern to reject any off-axis abrasive finger scrapes. What type of microphone should you use? I usually prefer a large diaphragm condenser for recording acoustic guitar. Its full-bodied sound provides amazing detail that I feel is the most accurate, but if you want something that's a bit thinner and more intimate, try a small diaphragm condenser. The way I think about it, the large diaphragm condenser has more space to pick up the long wavelengths of low frequencies, which often results in a more detailed and rich bottom end, whereas the small diaphragm condensers emphasize the tightly wound high frequencies. For this reason, you often see large diaphragm condensers on sources of low frequency like bass or piano or a kick drum, and you'll see small diaphragm condensers on sources of higher frequencies like overheads or a spot cymbal like hi-hat or ride. The acoustic guitar can kind of ride the fence. You get to determine the focus that it has in your music. My friend Robbie Miller from the Can't Afford to Record channel has turned me on to one of his favorite acoustic guitar recording techniques, which is the Shure SM7B. So here's a shout out to Robbie and his fantastic channel, Can't Afford to Record. I definitely recommend checking it out. So the SM7B works great for a few reasons. It's a much more narrow address, so it minimizes room sounds and excessive overtones from the instrument. So in this position, it captures a very tight and intimate view of the strings. So I particularly enjoyed it on single notes and arpeggio type playing. Let's check that out. Dynamic microphones work in a unique way because their circuit is passive, so they don't get the help from phantom power that condenser microphones receive. This makes them less sensitive and therefore less likely to pick up ambient room noise at the same intensity as condenser microphones. To demonstrate this effect, here's an example of acoustic guitar recorded with dynamic and condenser mics. This video is brought to you by DistroKid. DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that musicians use to upload their music to online stores and digital streaming platforms like iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments and sends 100% of these earnings to artists, while also taking care of banking fees and applicable taxes. Collaboration is a huge part of making music, and DistroKid makes it easy to pay your collaborators with their simple tool, DistroKid Splits. With Splits by DistroKid, you can add an unlimited amount of collaborators to any track. You can change the splits at any time. It's easy to add or remove collaborators, and you always have access to previous splits. For privacy reasons, collaborators only see what they get. They can't see other collaborators or how the splits are broken up. Your collaborators will need to make a DistroKid account, but they'll get a special 50% off, so it'll only be $10. Your release won't be delayed if your collaborator doesn't sign up. The money will just stay in the pot for them until they join. And if your collaborator never joins, it's really easy to cancel the invite and reallocate the money somewhere else. And as always, DistroKid never takes a cut, so you and your collaborators get to keep 100% of your earnings in total. DistroKid Splits makes it easy to work and collaborate with artists while making sure that everyone gets the credit and compensation that they deserve on a project. So get started today with the link in the description and get 7% off your first year's subscription. Before we go any further, let's talk about your room. And I would also recommend that you watch this video, which goes deeper into the effect your room will have on your recording. Guitar parts with a lot of strumming or busy playing work best in a dry room. This way you hear the performance and not the room. This is why installing acoustic treatment should be a top priority for your recording and listening spaces. But sometimes recording in a big room can add a unique sense of space to a recording. If you're open to experiment, recording in a larger room can give you a bigger, more spacious sound. This can be especially desirable for certain instruments such as drums, piano, and guitar, as it gives them some added depth and dimension. The example you just heard is from a Lexine song, Are You Listening?, that I recorded back in November. I really wanted a big open sound for the guitar, so instead of relying on reverb and post, I recorded it in the studio's main room that had an open concept and high ceilings. Larger rooms often have a natural reverb, which can be useful for adding character and ambience to a recording. This can be especially useful if that's the sound that you're going for. If you want a large room sound, why not get it at the source if you have access to it? So overall, recording in a larger room can give you a sound that's hard to get in a smaller space. However, it's important to remember that you can always add that reverb, but you can never take it away convincingly. So recording in a large room locks you into that sound, so you want to make sure that you want that sound. So experiment with different microphone placements and different rooms to find the sound that you're looking for to make your recordings really shine. And if you're limited to only one room for recording, make sure it's a dry, treated space. This will make it easiest for you to place your recordings in different spaces using reverb. Next, we'll talk about a setup that uses two microphones to record acoustic guitar. Now, I'll admit, it took me a while to get into stereo acoustic guitar recording. I was always a bit more of a mono guy, and whenever I saw a stereo mic technique on acoustic guitar, it never really did anything for me. So the method that I'm going to be passing along to you is the one that I used on all of the songs on the Lexine Misadventures in Love EP. It's an acoustic focused EP where all the songs start with vocals and guitar, and then they develop in their own way. So I wanted to have a lot of control over the final guitar sound. And I also wanted the guitar to have a good sense of space because it was the instrument that was connecting all of these songs. So to do this, I placed a large diaphragm condenser facing the bridge of the instrument and another facing the 12th fret. Both microphones used are Advanced Audio CM414s, placed 8 to 12 inches from the instrument. This setup gives you control over the best areas of the guitar. It also gives you a full accurate image when hard panned left and right. I loved this spaced pair technique on guitar because to me, it sounds as if I'm sitting right in front of the instrument. A great alternative if the single mic feels too cramped. But if you don't need all this width, there's another way that you can use these two microphones together. You can use them as a multi-mono setup, or two perspectives of the same source panned on top of each other. This lets you balance the amount of warm body coming from the bridge mic and the amount of nuances of finger noise and fret buzz coming from the fingerboard. Now, I know finger noise might not be what you think of when you mic up an instrument. We usually focus on getting the notes to sing, but, it's those little things, it's those little nuances that I find really add to the authenticity of the performance, and if you don't have them, you miss them. And if you have it, you can always turn it down and blend it in. Check it out. But one last note about using two microphones to record the same source: check your polarity to make sure your mics are of equal distance away from the source. This is critical in stereo recording, but it's also good practice when you're recording in mono to make sure that your mics are recording everything together in sync. So just record a quick clip of guitar, just one chord, then in your DAW, zoom into the attack of the recording. Check to make sure that both waveforms line up. If they don't, nudge one of the mics or a stand over until they line up. As a rule of thumb, I use kind of a hang loose gesture to measure the distance from the mic to the guitar. So the distance between my extended pinky to my extended thumb. And I find that this works best to get you near perfect phase from the beginning. Now that you're all set to record in your DAW, make sure to select the right input and adjust your gain so that the levels are not too high or too low. Play your guitar and listen back to the recording to make sure that it sounds good. If the sound is too quiet or too loud, adjust the gain on your interface accordingly. The first rule of setting gain is avoid clipping. Never let your signal hit 0 dB at full scale. I made a gain setting video that uses -dBFS as a rule of thumb for this safety zone. So check that out if you want to learn more about gain staging. When you're happy with the sound, hit the record button and start playing. Try to play as consistently as possible to get the best recording and avoid having to reset the gain. And if you're not already, practice everything to a click track. A metronome is an essential tool that helps you to keep a consistent tempo when playing in the studio. This is especially important when playing with other musicians, as it ensures that everyone is playing together. Once you've got a great recording, there's so much that you can do to make a world-class mix, but first, you must get the best raw recordings possible. On another note, I wanted to take a moment to talk about one of the more unexpected sides of running this channel. I got to be a part of a community. Through LAE, I've met countless colleagues and even friends, from Robbie at Can't Afford to Record, Dave and Scotty at Advanced Audio, Jeff from our Sync video, and Daniel from DistroKid, and countless other producers and home studio engineers. The truth is, I want to work with you. If you have a project that you want mixed, if you want a second set of ears, or if you just want to talk about your projects, hit me up. Send me a message. At times, production can feel like a solitary journey, but I can tell you how much better my journey has been since talking with some of you. Send me a message and let's work together. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.
I wouldn't blame you if you walk away, and I couldn't hate you if you don't feel the same.